Welcome, everyone. It's really so lovely to practice together. And as I was saying last week, we're starting a new focus, and we're going into the loving kindness training from the Drikung tradition, the instructions of how our founder accomplished enlightenment through absolute bodhicitta. And we're using this opportunity to integrate a lot of the studies we've been doing over the past few years. And we're relying on or resting with a wonderful text by Pema Chodron, The Places That Scare You, to augment the training practice, the stages of the training practice. So I'd like to start this morning with a quote from that book, The Places That Scare You by Pema Chodron. Bodhicitta exists on two levels. First, there is unconditional bodhicitta, an immediate experience that is refreshingly free of concept, opinion, and our usual all-caught-upness. It is something hugely good that we're not able to pin down even slightly, like knowing on the gut level that there's absolutely nothing to lose. Second, there is relative bodhicitta, our ability to keep our hearts and minds open to suffering without shutting down. Those who train wholeheartedly in awakening, unconditional and relative bodhicitta are called bodhisattvas or warriors. Not warriors who kill and harm, but warriors of non-aggression who hear the cries of the world. These are men and women who are willing to train in the middle of the fire. Training in the middle of the fire can mean that warrior bodhisattvas enter challenging situations in order to alleviate suffering. It also refers to their willingness to cut through personal reactivity and self-deception, to their dedication to uncovering the basic, undistorted energy of bodhicitta. So this is a presentation of the view, and we see in this presentation the introduction of two kinds of bodhicitta, relative and absolute. And in very relatable language, Venerable Pema expresses the union of bodhicitta and emptiness as something hugely good that we are not able to pin down even slightly. Like knowing on a gut level that there's absolutely nothing to lose. Or we might rephrase that, knowing fearlessness cellularly in our gut. Nothing to lose. And there is, where we begin our training, relative bodhicitta. We are still in samsara and subject to causes and conditions. The instructions or description she gives is the capacity to not shut down to suffering and explore what that means in deepening levels of subtlety. What does it mean to not shut down at all, no matter what arises in the world or right in front of you? Within relative bodhicitta, there is aspiration bodhicitta and action bodhicitta. So it's important to remember that sometimes meditation instructions can feel a little intimidating or scary. And so really we begin with aspiration bodhicitta. We have the aspiration to have the open heart of the Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, we have the aspiration to be fearless, and we're uncertain about what these first steps are and how to experience discomfort in our training. So whenever that arises, we simply remember our aspiration, which you probably recognize as altruism. We know that there are great heart minds. We know that His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche came to love his jailer, the person who tortured him, in the same way he loved his mentor and teacher, Khenpo Munsel. So we can say, all right, this is humanly possible. I recognize it in this living person or this historic person. I'm not sure that I'm ready when I even hear loving difficult people, but I can aspire to that level. So we understand that relative gradually opens up into absolute, but we're not trying to rush there or think it into happening. We're starting with training that can become a lifelong training, because it's always becoming richer and more fertile ground in seeing what is this shutting down experience, what is this opening up experience, and how can I maintain that in increasingly challenging situations. So the relative bodhicitta acknowledges that we are working with situations and we're responding with, I have compassion for, I have compassion towards, and this compassion for and towards is mixed with sadness and emotion and tears for the suffering. And we're seeing that that mixture is helpful and gradually will become unbiased or unjudgmental or even more open, including all of the actors, and then eventually including all sentient beings. So this is a formal practice, and for some it'll be familiar. It has definite stages of instruction, and the first stage is becoming at home with the feeling of loving kindness, to absolutely know what it is, so familiar that if I mention the feeling of loving kindness, you immediately internally give rise to a kind of warm-heartedness. But today I want to acknowledge that there are times in our lives when we're feeling depleted, when we're in despair perhaps, when we're feeling, oh, right now my well is dry. And even for wonderfully altruistic people, there can be times of crisis that this is just where you are. So the training of feeling at home with bodhicitta, with generating that warm heart and touching base with it, can happen in two ways. Last week, we explored the spontaneous opening of seeing a toddler or an animal friend. There's this just unguarded opening. But in times when we're not recognizing that or don't have a reservoir, we work with what it's like to receive loving kindness. And this can be in the form of visualizing a teacher. Some of you have met some wonderful, extraordinary teachers in your lives. It can be from, again, an animal companion. It can be from a family member. But the question we want to ask is, when you're visualizing that person or animal, companion or family member, is it a unbiased, unconditional loving kindness directed towards you? And for this reason, we often suggest maybe not your beloved, because we want the visualization of this to be freely focused on your gifts, virtues, and potential, not your failings. And the visualization has to be very confident and open that there's nothing to worry about in this visualization. So for this reason, you can use the sun. You can use an historic figure that you trust, like the historic Buddha. Some people are trained in other traditions, so they're wonderful visualizations of the compassionate heart of Christian deities and saints. It really is about your relationship with your imagination and finding a way to confidently receive unreservedly. And this receiving of loving kindness gradually overcomes that harsh inner voice that you have about yourself, that habit of returning to your imperfections, that I guess the Tibetan teachers find that Western students have a propensity of maintaining guilt. So wounds, traumas, and guilt. So it's a receiving that is gaining strength in your imagination to supersede at first and then eventually heal that quality of mind that focuses on what we are not, as opposed to aspiration and where we're heading. In this meditation, the instructions are very specific, and this is when we use our shamatha practice. In the first minute or two, try and settle with or experiment with one figure in your visualization, whether it's the sun, a Rinpoche, a special animal. And then that becomes the first stage of shamatha, not interchanging different figures in the visualization. You're free to change if it's not working, and you're free to experiment in different meditation sessions with different images for your visualization. But at a certain point, hold one figure and then focus on the filling of your reservoir, the sense of being saturated with loving kindness, the feeling of being completely loved just as you are. And again, we're not trying to create lots of thoughts. We are looking for the felt experience and then applying our shamatha training to that felt experience, not making a story about it. And to help with that, you can focus today on the warm-hearted sensation spreading through your body, as though you were filling yourself from your toes to your head, or from your heart going out to your extremities, to every pore. So eventually there'll be a sense of overflowing, but today, the felt experience physically, emotionally, of being filled to the degree that you're able to receive today, and being undistracted with that sensation, in the sense of not stories about it, coming again and again back to the felt experience in your mind body of receiving and filling with loving kindness. Okay, let's start there. We'll open up to meditation for a good 10 plus minutes. Remember, it's the felt experience, not a story about it, and come over and over again to the warmth of being loved completely. Okay, begin. For those who would like to continue with this practice of receiving, you're absolutely welcome. And for those who would like to share what this experience is like for them, you can join one of the breakout rooms. Again, what is it like to receive, and then what is it like to apply shamatha to that felt state is the discussion. So I'll do a quick dedication for the YouTube viewers, and then we'll have our confidential discussion. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it